Kenny Dillingham is staying, ladies and gentlemen, signs a new massive deal with Arizona State, and it is the best thing that's ever happened to Arizona State football for multiple reasons. Good luck finding a head coach, Wolverines. Welcome into Open for Business. It is the world's best Big 12 podcast. I am your host, John Kurtz. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel where we're talking about college football from a Big 12 perspective all the time. Kenny Dillingham is sticking around at Arizona State. Huge news for the Big 12. Huge news for Arizona State's program. It breaks early this morning as everybody's waking up after watching Oklahoma choke away a 17-point lead in the college football playoff last night. Here's some details from Pete Thamel of ESPN, who was one of the first that I saw break at least the numbers that are out there. So Arizona State Coach Kenny Dillingham has signed a new 5-year contract that will average nearly $7.5 million over the course of the deal. The deal prioritized resources for the staff as the salary pool increases to $11 million, which puts it near the top of the Big 12. Yeah, I can tell you on that front, I think K-State, just for if you want a point of reference, okay, $11 million, what does that mean in terms of increasing the staff salary pool? I think K-State's is going to be more than this just from private donors that are going to help out Colin Klein. But K-State, who just hired Colin Klein, the official, like in the contract assistant salary pool was $6.5 million. So $11 million that's doing well. And remember Kenny Dillingham's comments. He just said the other day, the last time he spoke publicly was, hey, my job here is to fight for those guys in the Foxhole with me. Well, he did that. He just got raises for the staff. He's got more money to make sure he can keep those guys around because you know everybody will come sniffing around when you're having success at a Big 12 school. So, huge accomplishment there. There was no word on specific NIL money from the Pete Thamel story in this contract. I would have to admit that there's some kind of, at least, some kind of commitment there because with the BYU deal, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, for Kalani Sitake, very similar situation, right? Big Ten school comes after him. He secures more resources. That was the big headline, was about the NIL money that BYU was committing here. And you know that's got to be a part of it for Kenny Dillingham. He just watched Sam Levitt walk out the door, right? Some more details from Pete Thamel. The deal remains for 5 years, as longer ones aren't allowed by Arizona state law, but there are incentives to extend the contract up to 10 years. The deal is pending board approval. Dillingham signed a new deal a year ago that made him the second highest paid coach in the Big 12 in 2025. While there are increases in salary, the heart of this new deal was resources for the program, which, yeah, totally makes sense. You got your big bump, right? Kenny Dillingham's a fairly unproven, young coach when he's hired a few years ago. You're going to get your huge bump in salary when you go win the Big 12. Now this deal is about, okay, I got to make sure I have staying power here as a program. That means I need more money for players. I need more money for assistant coaches. It's so big for Arizona State, man, and the Big 12. But for Arizona State, this turned into the best thing possible for your program. And I told you this the other night on the show that, hey, it's high risk, high reward. Like these are really high stakes here because you're either going to lose your coach to Michigan. And obviously, I guess maybe I should have been more upfront about this early on in the video. This all comes in response to Kenny Dillingham being well-publicized, a well-publicized frontline candidate at Michigan. Michigan definitely really liked him. Now, there was a report last night from Pete Thamel that Michigan still felt like they had a good shot at Kalen DeBoer, depending on what happened in the Alabama-Oklahoma game. They were probably going nuts when it was 17-0 Sooners. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So now, once again, good luck, Michigan. Kenny Dillingham gone. I would think Kalen DeBoer probably off the board now that he won that playoff game. I guess we shall see. But, man, you were playing a high-stakes game of poker here if you're Arizona State because it's either you lose your coach or your program backs this great generational talent head coach with everything that he is going to need to win. Certainly, at least at the Big 12 level. Like you have now vaulted yourself toward the top of the league in terms of resources to help your coach. So there was a middle ground where nobody comes after Kenny Dillingham this offseason. Nobody's feet gets held to the fire. Michael Crow, Graham Rossini, leadership there at Arizona State. And you don't get this kind of commitment, this kind of resource commitment. Now, because there was real pressure, there was real leverage for Dillingham with the threat of this Michigan job, you got a lot of that accomplished. And now you've got a program that has extra teeth to it. And I think it's in contrast to what's happening with the Arizona State roster. It just shows up even more how important it is. And I know that Sam Levitt's the only guy that's leaving. You can talk about it being more money. Maybe it is just a more prestige, something like that. Taking a big swing. His brother's an agent. A lot of things that could be going on there. But you did lose a high profile player there. And the roster is going to undergo just a ton of turnover. Jordan Tyson announced he's going pro, which obviously is no surprise. I mean, I feel like that dude could or maybe should be the first receiver off the board in the draft. But Raleek Brown, Keith Abney, I mean, there are a lot of stars that have all declared for the NFL draft here. So this team's going to look a lot different. You need more resources to go out and recoup the roster. It'll be really interesting to see what things look like next year for Arizona State. But it's the BYU situation almost to a T. I mean, it got really nerve-wracking for BYU fans and Kalani Sitake. It's been a nerve-wracking week for Arizona State fans with Kenny Dillingham, for sure. I totally get that. Not always the most fun thing in the world. But the result is huge blessing in disguise that you almost lost your coach to a Big Ten school, because the Big Ten is now forcing Big 12 schools to step up and pony up the money and resources they need to give their coach a shot to win at the highest level. This is a good thing for the Big 12. This is a good thing for ASU football that this has happened. It's annoying. It's gut-wrenching as a fan, and sometimes it doesn't work out, right? Like Iowa State fans thought they were going through the exact same thing. Hey, we'll step up and get a bunch more money and NIL and resources, and we'll keep Matt Campbell, and then bam, we're ready to roll. Well, it didn't work out there. So it's a roll of the dice. It is a roll of the dice when this happens, but it has come up snake eyes good. Come up snake eyes for Arizona State and BYU as opposed to Iowa State. If I have that reference wrong, just flip those. You guys get the idea. You can tell how much I gamble. Anyway, BYU, when this happened, committed, according to the Pete Nakos report from On3, $25 to $30 million in NIL and rev share for the football roster every year. Huge. You're going 10 to 15 million above just the rev share money in extra NIL if you're doing that. Again, I imagine there's probably some sort of commitment or at least like handshake deal here with NIL support if Kenny Dillingham is signing this and opting to not go further down the road with Michigan. But I don't know, not there in the reporting. But at least here getting an $11 million salary pool, even if that's all it is, that's going to help a lot in terms of keeping coaches around, which is Kenny Dillingham doing right by his coaches and trying to make sure that he can secure these guys and keep them around. So think about the Big 12 now. I mean, we know Texas Tech's resources. Nobody at this point, you have to have literally been living under a rock, not paid attention to a second of college football this year to have not heard about the commitment that Texas Tech has with Cody Campbell and the Matador Club and all the money that they have. BYU now has stepped up with the big deal and the NIL money for Kalani Sitake. Arizona State has stepped up to back Kenny Dillingham and provide him with all these extra resources. Say what you will about it and the long-term risks, and I totally understand it, but Utah has signed a $500 million private equity deal to give Morgan Scalley as much as they possibly can. There are Big 12 schools that are meeting the moment. How many times have you guys heard me say that on the channel over the last year? Meet the moment. Now, a lot of that was my frustration with my alma mater, K-State, but meet the moment. You got 5 to 7 years here to play your way into whatever the next iteration of college football is going to be. And whether that's the Big 12 staying strong enough to be a part of it, or it turns into a super league, or it turns into like just 2 leagues. I mean, every school here, like you got to fight for your life right now. And it seems ridiculous. It seems crazy how much money it takes and how much is being spent out there. But if you want to survive into a world where maybe we do have some actual legislation, guardrails, whatever you want to say, if you want to survive into that world, you got to spend big now. You got to do it. And whether it's going to be private equity money like Utah, or it's, your own billionaire boosters like Texas Tech, or somewhere in between like BYU and Arizona State, you got to do it, especially if you feel like you've got the coach right now. Like if you've got that dude, you've got that guy, you cannot mess around. And I mean, I hate to say it, like Iowa State fans, I told you, I feel terrible. The Matt Campbell situation, just brutal. This does kind of accentuate that a bit more now too, where you've seen multiple other Big 12 schools be able to step up. Would Iowa State have been able to do something at the last minute, when the pursuit from Penn State happened to keep Matt Campbell around? I don't know, but it does sound like maybe if over the last year or two, three, whatever, since NIL really blasted to the forefront here, if you could have done more to step up and support there, maybe that's the type of thing that makes the difference in the final hour when a Penn State comes sniffing around. So that's it's brutal to think about here and now. But for the Big 12's sake, if you're branching out big picture here, you've got some schools that are stepping up, and that's a very, very good thing. So probably we'll talk more about this on the live show coming up on Sunday. But thank you all for tuning in. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of the video. It's totally free. 5,600 plus Big 12 fans do subscribe. Comes to your inbox multiple times per week. Take care, guys, and I will talk to you soon.